Hello, I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns in tonight for Major Garrett. Welcome to The Takeout. One of the president's biggest political enemies now stands indicted. Just 5 days ago, the president sent out this post on social media to his attorney general saying, quote, "Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell." He went on to demand justice must be served now. Former FBI head James Comey was indicted on 2 counts, one for making a false statement and the other for obstruction of justice. This morning, the president denied that this is revenge, but went on to say there will be more.
Who is the next person on your list in this retribution?
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats.
We begin tonight with our justice reporter, Jake Rosen. Jake, I know you were following this late at night last night, so big news for everyone. I do want to play, though, what James Comey himself said in response. He released this Instagram video. Let's take a listen.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
All right, so Jake, can you kind of break down what we know about this case? What exactly are we looking at here?
Well, we know that former FBI Director Comey is under an investigation in a number of other districts as well. Specifically in this one, the clock was ticking because the statute of limitations was 5 years plus on bringing these charges for lying to Congress, allegedly, in this case. And it was set to expire on Tuesday. This, if you back up, as you just mentioned, President Trump and the White House pressured the U.S. attorney who was in the Eastern District of Virginia late last week because no indictment had been brought down. As a result of that, he resigned from that office. A former White House assistant, former defense attorney of President Trump in that classified documents case, Lindsay Halligan, was brought in. She was the one who was willing to put her name on that piece of paper that indicted Comey, and the grand jury indicted, obviously returning 2 of 3 charges. They attempted to secure another charge of making false statements. The grand jury rejected that. So again, according to the Justice Department manual, this is not necessarily a major charge. There would be minimal to no jail time if he's convicted at all, if it gets to trial. But generally, there are a number of concerns about this, not just that firewall that's traditionally between the Justice Department and the president in terms of ordering direct investigations. As we know, President Trump has done that in a number of pieces. We're almost on dozens of people that President Trump has now said on social or in speeches of who should be investigated for doing certain acts or allegedly doing certain acts. But there's also big questions about actually bringing this indictment forward as somebody who's never been a federal prosecutor, never been a local prosecutor.
Halligan.
Yes, Lindsay Halligan, to bring this forward and how the case looks going forward, especially given it's only a 2-page indictment, not a lot of details, and we will see Comey in court in the next couple of weeks.
And she's the only person that signed on to this. I mean, can you walk us through what the turmoil in the Justice Department has been like?
Well, it goes back to just that True Social post that President Trump put out this week saying that the pressure needed to be on and that Lindsay Halligan would be willing to do the bidding of the person, Eric Siebert, who was in this job before, who President Trump put in that role to potentially bring these charges. That wasn't done. A Department of Justice spokesperson just tweeted out right before this that Pam Bondi stands behind this indictment, stands behind it, and that the Justice Department is willing to do whatever it takes to lend assistance in this case. However, what prosecutor is going to go forward and bring this? Is it a close aide or ally of Pam Bondi in the Justice Department? Is it a career prosecutor? Who is willing to continue this? Lindsay Halligan certainly has never actually argued a case like this before. It would certainly be unprecedented for her to do so. We've seen some top Justice Department officials come down from main justice to go do these in high-profile cases yet to be determined.
That's interesting to keep an eye out, but also important to underscore that she has never done this before. Jake Rosen, thank you very much for your reporting. We appreciate it. Stand by. We're going to turn now to our legal experts, Scott Fredericksen and Peter Zeidenberg. Join me now to further discuss the Comey indictment. Scott is a former federal prosecutor, and Peter formerly served as the Deputy Special Counsel for the Department of Justice. So, gentlemen, thank you both for being with me here. If you will indulge me, I want to kind of lay out for our audience the defense in this case and the prosecution. I'm going to task you with offering what exactly the prosecution is in this case. If you were serving in that position, which, to be clear, you are not, What are they trying to do here?
Well, that's a great question. In all fairness, this is a weak case. There are all kinds of red flags right out of the box. The prosecutor here couldn't even get the grand jury to agree on all the counts they wanted. That pretty much never happens. So they are going to walk into a case in which they're going to find themselves playing defense and on their heels very quickly in front of a very skeptical federal judge who knows what's been going on here. Everyone's aware that the previous U.S. attorney, an experienced prosecutor, and his staff had apparently determined there was insufficient evidence to bring this case, and yet here this case is. So if I was forced to make the decision on the case, one, you have to have an experienced prosecutor running this case for the government. I'm not sure you can get one because any experienced prosecutor is probably going to say, thanks, but I don't have an alternative career in mind right now. But you can't have Lindsay Halligan, the aide to President Trump, who's just stepped in with no legal experience, standing up and learning how to be a federal criminal prosecutor and trialer for the first time. So one, get somebody experienced to run this. Two, I think the only strategy that works for the government is try to get this case to the jury. They're going to be, the government's going to be facing very strong motions from the defense, vindictive prosecution, insufficient evidence. They're going to try and get the memo, the government itself prepared that there wasn't enough evidence. But you want to persuade the judge, get it to the jury, let the jury decide. Because one advantage the government has in the Eastern District of Virginia, and I served there, is that the government and the agents who testify are held in high esteem. When you walk into that courtroom and you're the government, you are held in high regard. You've got to use that, but you've got to be as buttoned down on this case, no mistakes, have someone experienced, because the last thing I'll say is they're facing Mr. Comey's lawyer, Pat Fitzgerald, one of the most experienced former prosecutors, defense lawyers, one of the best in the country right now. So it can't be amateur hour for the government. They have to have someone experienced, and they have to try and get this case to a jury.
And Peter, I mean, given everything that Scott just laid out, it seems like a pretty easy defense. Is that true? Or what are the potential pitfalls for the defense?
Well, I'm not aware of any pitfalls for the defense. I think it's an exceptionally weak case. I mean, you know, no trial lawyer would ever say anything's automatic because it's up to a jury. I mean, just in terms of the jury that Scott mentions, I think Virginia is this area of Virginia that's drawing from. I don't know that it's a fairly blue area. Eastern District of Virginia has a reputation, has had a reputation in the past of being a very pro-government jury pool. They're a pretty sophisticated bunch, though, and I think that they are going to, if this case makes it to trial, and there will be pretrial motions for selective and vindictive prosecution, and they're going to be really substantial motions. If this case were to get to trial, it's hard for me to imagine the jury would not know the context, which is they were forced to bring this case. And then you get to the case, and they're relying, apparently, on the testimony of Andrew McCabe, whom the Trump had tried to indict previously, who fired from the FBI the day before his retirement in an attempt, unsuccessful, to keep him from getting his pension. Andy McCabe is not going to be a friendly witness for the government. He is a friend of Jim Comey's, and apparently, from the reporting, he was not interviewed by the government prior to this indictment, which is unheard of.
Yeah, I was going to ask how rare that is.
To base a case with the most essential witness not in your pocket. They don't know what he's going to say, and they can be fairly sure he'll be hostile.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I echo what Scott said about Pat Fitzgerald, whom I worked with as a special counsel. He's an outstanding lawyer, very formidable, and he's going to do a great job.
Now, what also strikes me about this case, as unusual as it is, you have the president out there posting on social media pretty clearly, I would think, the reasons why he's doing that. But in a legal frame, how do you take these social media posts talking about something must be done, something must, naming Comey, naming others? How do you take that into consideration?
You take that with several aspirin or Tylenol. I mean, President Trump has already laid out really strong stuff for the defense to use in a vindictive prosecution case. You can't erase that. And plus, he's infamous for making statements all along the way, which at some point is really going to upset this federal judge, if not right off the bat. Continuing statements are about the worst thing you could do, because that's going to come in as well. Yeah. But we all know you can't control President Trump. So that's kind of another disaster. As I said, there's numerous red flags here flying for the government, for a case like that. And that's a big problem for the government.
And just quickly, Peter, I mean, what's the timeline looking like here? We'll be in arraignment in October, but...
He has a right to a speedy trial within 70 days. Okay. But I would imagine that they will be bringing these pretrial motions because they're just too tempting, and there's too high a likelihood of success to skip them and move right to trial. So I think that this will drag out. But the Eastern District of Virginia is also known for being an extremely efficient courthouse. So what are we in, September? Within 6 months, you could have a trial.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we will seek your advice and counsel as we cover this in the coming months. Thank you, Peter and Scott, very much for your time.